the things you're going to hear quite commonly, or may have already heard, is what about living wills? Or I have a living will. Is that good enough? Is that an advanced care plan? So, first of all, there's no such thing as a living will by itself in Canada. It doesn't exist. It's really a term of art or a piece of slang. A lot of Americans will use the term living wills. And what we mostly mean when you say a living will is a written expression of your wishes that you write down when you're capable, and the person who's the treating professional would read it and that they would take instructions from it. So living wills don't exist as its own self. But really, what a lot of people are talking about is advanced directives. And advanced directives are often misunderstood. They exist in few places in Canada. British Columbia is one place where advanced directives do exist. But most of advanced care planning is done through a substitute decision maker. So let's talk a little bit about what the difference is between substitute decision making and an advanced directive, or if you want to call it a living will, although I'd prefer you didn't because it's confusing to people. Substitute decision making is the process by which somebody else, a capable person, is appointed who is over the age of majority or allowed to in that province or jurisdiction to make a decision on behalf of somebody else. Now, I say a capable adult. You can't choose your young child. You can't choose someone who themselves is incapable for some reason. It has to be someone who's willing to do it. They can say they're willing to do it at the beginning, but partway through, they may decide to change their mind. You can't be forced to be a substitute decision maker. And it has to be somebody, really practically speaking, for there's no conflict and you've probably had some form of connection, again, on a practical basis, usually over the last year. So a substitute decision maker is when you pick somebody else, capable adult, to make a decision for you. That's a proxy decision, and that means they'll take into account your values, wishes, and beliefs, what you've expressed verbally, in writing, or to other people, and they'll use their good sense as a filter to make a decision on what you would have wanted, not necessarily what's in your best interests, but when it comes to advanced health and personal care decision, what you would have wanted. An advanced directive, what some people call a living will, is a different beast. An advanced directive is a piece of paper with explicit directions on it, which has the purpose of informing the treating professional and does not get filtered through a proxy or substitute decision maker. So this is a direct letter. So imagine this is following scenario. We have known for some time that I was going to have a kidney transplant, and I have been looking forward to having that kidney transplant. I have children, I have grandchildren, and I have been very excited about getting my transplant. I have written down before some values and wishes and beliefs, which have included that I don't want to be living on machines. I don't want to be intubated. And I don't want heroic efforts made on my behalf. And those values, wishes, and beliefs are perhaps 10 years old. And they may even predate the procedure that I'm about to have. In the case of substitute decision making, my substitute decision maker, let's call it my partner, is come to by the treating physician, the doctor, and the doctor says, Laura needs to have intubation and live on machines for a few days. The treatment, the procedure went well, but there are some complications, and she needs to live with this assistive devices and intubation for a few days, and then she should be fine. My partner, as my substitute decision maker, knows my values, wishes, and beliefs. In this case, my partner would consider conversations we've had before, would consider things that I've written down, including those wishes from about 10 years ago, would consider my enthusiasm for the transplant, and would consider other conversations I've had with other people about my values, wishes, and beliefs in terms of being intubated. And then my partner, as my substitute decision maker, who I've appointed, would use all that information and through his best filter, tell the physician, look, I know there's some evidence that she didn't want to be on machines and intubated, but overall, she was looking forward to it. She didn't mean that she never ever wanted to have any form of machines or intubation. She meant she didn't want to live for years on that. By contrast, in a jurisdiction where there was an advance directive, you could be in the concerning issue where a physician would take the instruction directly from the piece of paper. Well, that piece of paper may be old, may be out of date, and it may not have a reasoning mind filtering that information. In this case, we wouldn't have the opportunity to refute easily the written directions. And there's a great concern that I wouldn't get those 3 or 4 days of intubation and treatment, and I might not be able to come through the procedure as successfully as I would have otherwise done. So Canada generally has laws across the jurisdiction which only allow this substitute or proxy decision making, with some exceptions. As I say, British Columbia does have it. But where there is a conflict or a concern, in this case, the concern was that the document was about 10 years old and there was evidence to support that that's not what I truly meant, then concerned people can challenge that piece of paper, can challenge that advance directive. So what does this all mean? Substitute decision making using a proxy person versus advance directives or living wills. It means that in Canada, generally, we make our decisions through conversations, not paper. But that a person who is charged with being a substitute decision maker uses all information available to him or her, uses the values, wishes, and beliefs, uses written information, uses information and conversations with other people as best they can in order to make the very best decision that you would have wanted, not necessarily what's in the best interest. And by contrast, in jurisdictions where there are living wills or advance directives, there can be a challenge if there is other information which suggests that the written piece of information is not current or appropriate. And again, advance directives don't exist in most places in the country, but they do exist, for instance, in the province of British Columbia. So check your jurisdiction. If you're in Ontario, there's no advance directives. If you're in British Columbia, there is.